If the UN fails to take action, we will take action. And the action we take will be determined by us.
But believe it or not, gaining power was the easy part. From day one of your reign, you'll be beset by enemies and treacherous rivals eager to bring your regime to a quick and likely violent end. It's a lesson one of history's most famous leaders learned the hard way.
Now those Western countries, once they use them against my country to destabilize this country, they will find me here.
How about Laurent Kabila of Congo, assassinated by one of his own child soldiers who got out of line? And then there's Liberia's Samuel Doe, captured and tortured on camera before being murdered by a rival warlord. But you can avoid their fate by using the playbook to put potential rivals in their place.
Throughout history, dictators have rise and fall, emerge and pass. But the Gambia never experienced one as deranged as Yaya Jammeh.
It would have taken the British 4 million years to reach this stage. And Jada's government, maybe 3.5 million years. But we have reached this stage despite all the odds.
So diabolical, who surrenders an entire nation to his sickening crimes.
I hereby announce to you Gambians my total rejection of the electoral result.
For over 22 years, Yaya Jammeh, the megalomaniacal dictator of Kanilai, would torture, terrify and traumatize the people of the Smiling Coast.
Ultimately, he was not interested in liberating anyone. He was interested in enslaving them.
Just like other malevolent dictators before him in the timeline of history, Jammeh would go by the playbook, and he would play at his best during his time.
I have sworn to uphold the laws and the constitution of this country to the letter, irrespective of who is involved. I have an operation no compromise against corruption. I've sent people, some of my brothers to jail for that.
Dictators have a completely proprietary view of the nation. They own its wealth, they own its people. Their bodies are his to do what he wants.
Same way you moved around when Europe was bankrupt. You came to Africa for 400 years. We never killed you.
Yaya Abdulaziz James Johnson,
We African leaders,
Sheikh Professor, His Excellency, President of the Republic of the Gambia. Born on the 25th of May 1965, a Gambian politician and former military officer who was leader of the Gambia from 1994 to 2017. Fourthly, as chairman of the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council, the AFPRC, from 1994 to 1996, and then president of the country from 1996 to 2017. Born in Kanilai in the Gambia and a Muslim member of the Jola ethnic group, Jammeh attended high school in Banjul from 1978 to 1983 and served in the Gambian National Gendarmerie from 1984 to 1989.
we African leaders would stand up together, I hope, to protect these young Africans from mass murder on European coasts. I hereby call on the UN to commission such an investigation as a matter of priority.
This mad dog least has a goal of a world revolution. Governance part of it. When you have the constitution, after the election, ñoom ak civic education ñoom seen rôle mooy woon pour muy gën a wéeru ci affaire civic education.
The environment was very, very difficult indeed. But the only means of changing one's status was to join the military.
He would ban all political parties. Sooner than later, he would exterminate or kill some of the coup plotters with whom he organized the coup d'etat.
On Friday, which is my day,
I was in the office. This was around 10. Well, all of a sudden, the bell didn't even ring. They just rushed in. Somebody came from. Before I asked him, what the hell do you think you are doing? Just busting into my office like that. Somebody said, yes, no. They pointed out peaceful service.
One of Yaya Jammeh's consistent targets throughout his time as president was the press and the media, and as a whole, as well as individual journalists. In 1998, the independent Citizen FM radio station was forced to close down after a number of its staff were arrested and equipments were confiscated.
Okay, but one security that I warn you is don't drink.
Thank you, sir.
Don't drink, don't sniff.
Jammeh had made a number of public statements against the press. In 2000, he said anybody bent on disturbing the peace and stability of the nation would be buried 6 feet deep.
I don't compromise. I don't have one set of rules for the whole country and one set of rules for my family, because we are all Ghanaians. I'm not even above the law of the Almighty Allah. So, I'll be very happy to see a relative and I will set an example. I have no example either.
As the creator of your new society, you're more than just head of state. You're the parent of your nation. And to truly show your love, you'll need to guide your flock with a firm hand.
Authoritarian rulers exercise rule by limiting the rights that the public enjoys. The leaders will often claim that this is in the best interest of the state, of the people.
After all, tyrants know best.
In April 2004, Jammeh told journalists to obey the government or go to hell. In 2005, he said that he allowed too much freedom of expression in the Gambia.
So far, the playbook has shown you how to seize power, crush your rivals, brutalize your people into submission, and replace objective truth with your version of reality.
The Newspaper Act of 1994 imposed criminal penalties on private publications that failed to pay yearly registration. The National Media Communication Act of 2000 forced journalists to reveal confidential sources to police and to judiciary on demand. In December of 2004, the Criminal Code Amendment Bill 2004 allowed prison terms for defamation and sedition. The same month, Newspaper Amendment Bill of 2004 would require newspaper proprietors to purchase expensive operating licenses and forcing them to register their homes as security. A number of individual journalists were targeted in December 2004. Deda Hydra would be killed. The editor of Point newspaper announced his intention to publicly challenge the newly introduced legislation restricting press freedom. He was shot and killed when driving home in Banjul, 16th of December. Leading to thousands of protests in the streets, some pointed at the government led by Yaya Jammeh.
Now it's time to realize the true promise of tyranny by reinventing your country into the utopia you always dreamed it could be.
The more dangerous and interesting tyrants are really convinced they are creating a better world.
Whereas Jammeh now silenced most of his enemies, exterminated and assassinated some of his coup plotters, and of course deflected attention to the former regime by the established commission of the Algali Commission, he is now able to move forward.
The same way you moved around when Europe was bankrupt. You came to Africa for 400 years. We never killed you.
Just like a perfect dictator's adherence to the playbook, Yaya Jammeh would play his best in his times. After a few years of his revolution, he will wrap himself in the patriotic flags of the Gambia and scapegoat the former regime for the setbacks the country has suffered.
Yeah, Gambia. You know, in those days, when you once carried a chair on your head or a desk to go to school, Today, that is not happening. In those days also, your parents must be very wealthy or must be very close to the system for you to have a university education.
He would form an Algali commission to expose the corruptions and the crimes of the Jawara government.
It would have taken the British 4 million years to reach this stage, and Jawara's government maybe 3.5 million years. But we have reached this stage despite all the odds.
According to the playbook, this tactic has been employed by numerous dictators: Adolf Hitler of Germany, Saddam Hussein of Iraq.
We African leaders would stand up together, I hope, to protect these young Africans from mass murder on European coasts.
Implementing a brand new education system with you as the main subject? Why not? The playbook provides all the tools you need to create your perfect society.
Yaya Jammeh would do a similar. In August and October of 2005, saw a border feud with Senegal over increased ferry prices for crossing over the Gambia River. Jammeh has a close relationship with Jolas in the Casamance region of Senegal, who would allow him to rule with impunity. In turn, Jammeh supported the rebels in Casamance conflict by engaging in the trade of illegal drugs, small arms, and also money laundering. As every dictator anticipates to boost their energy and try to build a special chemistry with the people, Yaya Jammeh would not be left behind.
People start from undergraduate, receive a bachelor's degree, whether in science or arts, go to master's degree, and then proceed to PhD level, all at the expense of my government. This is the first time. In the Gambia today, going to university is not determined by who your parents are or where you come from. It depends on your academic qualifications, period. We don't even look at the background of your parents' political background, you know. And this was very rampant under Jawara's government, where if you are NCP, a supporter of NCP, your children may not even go to high school.
Shortly after the outbreak of the Guinea-Bissau Civil War in June of 1998, Jammeh sought for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. He passionately canvassed regional opinion on the war in Cape Verde, Mauritania, Guinea, and Senegal, and sent Mohamed Lamine Sédar Diop, his foreign minister, to meet the rebel leader Ansoumana Mane to fruitlessly attempt to arrange peace talks in Banjul. According to the Daily newspaper, on December 10th of 2012, Yaya Jammeh secured a release of Senegalese soldiers who had been held as hostages by rebels in Senegal. He sent a delegation to meet the Senegalese President Macky Sall in early of December 2012. The delegation's goal was to discuss a resolution to the ongoing civil unrest in Senegal's southern region of Casamance. Members of the delegation included the Minister of Presidential Affairs, the United States Ambassador to the Gambia, and members of the Red Cross and Red Crescent. Jammeh have always been there to protect his image. In order to create a godlike figure and a spiritual leader in the Gambia, in January of 2007, Yaya Jammeh claimed he could cure HIV and AIDS and asthma with herbs, bananas, and a prayer.
It's not a task he takes lightly.
I feel a great burden, a big sense of responsibility, because they have all their hopes in me. If I fail, I would have failed them. I would have disappointed them.
Somebody who really started off wanting to change the society around him, and in the end started to believe in his own stories.
And replace objective truth with your version of reality.
But to maintain grip on power, dictators must use brutality. Sometimes they kill.
Gambian citizenship. Now, those Western countries want to use them against my country to destabilize this country. They will find me.
Human Rights Watch found that the Gambian security services most frequently implicated in abuses were the National Intelligence Agency. Yaya Jammeh with his own state security, can now have maximum control over the Gambian people.
If democracy is anything to go by, Gambians today have more access to, in fact, have better living conditions than at any time they would have dreamt of during the time of the British or 30 years ago.
But not everything that glitters is gold, and behind the velvet glove of Yaya Jammeh, there lies an iron fist of total control and one-man domination. For many years, Yaya Jammeh would bank on the checks of fear and paranoia to entrench his government and to perfect his megalomaniacal, grandiose style of leadership.
They are a disaster to humanity, they are an insult to Islam, and they should be wiped out.
The paramilitary junglers and the serious crimes unit and the police intervention unit of the Gambia Police Force, the junglers, an unofficial unit of up to 40 personnel, likely drawn from the Presidential Guard. April 10th and 11th, year 2000. The government was accused of killing of 14 students and a journalist during a student demonstration to protest the death of a student in the Gambia. Jammeh was accused of ordering the shooting of the students, but the government denied the allegations. The Government Commission of Inquiry reportedly concluded that the Police Intervention Unit, the PIU officers, were largely responsible for many of the deaths and other injuries. The commission also said that 5 soldiers of the 2nd Infantry Battalion were responsible for the death of 2 students at Brikama. The government, however, stated that the reports implicated several PIU officers in the students' deaths and injuries, but those responsible were not prosecuted. Disappearances and imprisonments.
Young Africans from mass
Newspaper reports list dozens of individuals who have been disappeared after being picked up by men in plainclothes, others who have languished under indefinite detention for months or a year without a charge or a trial. The Regional Economic Committee of West African States, ECOWAS Court, ordered the Gambia government to produce 1 journalist who had disappeared. In April 2016, at least 50 people were arrested during a demonstration.
loolu du mën a dox parce que man Yaya Jammeh man muslim la duma toog saagaan bàyyi dëkk bi to di extend that nit ñi war a dem jaamu yàlla sax ñeme ñaatuñ ko man Yaya Jammeh jaral na ma dee.
In exacerbating the psychological pressure of paranoia in the country, he would fire a brother and hire a sister.
Bad and weird.
Criminals.
Behind most great men, there is. So as Yaya Jammeh, with all his loud mouth talks and chest-pounding chimpanzee nation style, Jammeh would be very meticulous in sharing the top ranks of his government. Aja Assasunjai Seri, Vice President. Fatoumata Jawupa Sise, Speaker of the House. Fatou Lamin Faye, Minister of Education. Then Amadou Gay, Minister of Information, and then Ambassador, and the list goes on. Yaya Jammeh would put women in key positions. As one of his longest loyalists, Aja Assasunjai Sedi, a Gambian politician, would be one of the longest vice presidents in Africa. The Speaker of the National Assembly and several ministers were prioritized by Yaya Jammeh to be women. Jammeh would always give women their fair share of the cake, not a bad tactic. After all, women are always more than men, and this helps. No matter his arrogance, he had a special touch with the women of the country. Yaya Compians, women of all forms of tribes, cultures, and languages would salute Yaya Jammeh and join his march in his national campaigns. He would excel them and put them at high positions in the government, such as vice presidents, speaker of the house, ministers, governors, and many more. Yaya Jammeh was the perfect tactic player of the playbook, knowing how to involve people and use their interests against them.
As the creator of your new new society, you're more than just head of state. You're the parent of your nation.